Hey there, I'm very excited to be here. In this talk, I hope to convince you of the importance of JSON schema in API governance and give you some clear next steps to improve your schema game and therefore improve your API governance efforts. But first of all, who I am, why you should be spending 10 minutes listening to me. I'm the founder of Sourcemeta. It's a company entirely dedicated to the use of JSON schema in production. I'm a member of the JSON schema technical steering committee. And I also did a lot of work with JSON schema, ranging from writing a book about it to research and a lot more. But yeah, well, let's start from the beginning. If you are in this conference, you care about API governance. And why do you care? You care because you want to guarantee that all the APIs you develop have certain characteristics, right? You want to govern them. For example, you might want all of the APIs in your organization to feel consistent and look like they were indeed made by the same company, right? Maybe you want your APIs to be of high quality and ensure that they are designed and built using the best industry practices. Of course, you probably want your APIs to be secure, right? And maybe you also want to ensure, good lifecycle practices, for example, preventing breaking all of your customers without notice and a lot more. And here's the thing. All of the things I'm mentioning here are characteristics of the interface of the API. They are characteristics of the boundary of the API. In other words, when you are trying to apply governance, a lot of it is actually asking things like, is my API interface consistent? Is my API interface secure? Is my API interface well-designed? And so forth. And if all of these things apply at the interface level, how can we reason about that interface or boundary to begin with? We probably need a machine-readable way of expressing that interface. And of course, we do have that. Lorna has just presented about the fantastic OpenAPI specification. And this is exactly the reason why API specifications got so popular. They allow us to express this interface in a declarative manner to do useful things like governance. And again, you probably all know about OpenAPI, extremely popular technology. Now, given OpenAPI, I think we can think largely about API governance as being about ensuring your API specs, which represent the API interface or boundary, are of high quality. And of course, what do we mean by high quality depends on you, right? High quality might mean adhering to your company existing API guidelines, or it might be some other guideline that you found on the web, but overall it is a target that you can define. And of course, not every aspect of API governance can be encoded using API specifications like OpenAPI yet. Like, for example, OpenAPI doesn't quite let you, at least, not out of the box, define things like advanced rate limiting policies, but I think that's clearly where the industry is heading. I think we're heading to a place where more and more things are being expressed at the API specification layer, and vendors often, for example, may provide even their own OpenAPI extensions to allow more on these. And then in practice, you get tools like Spectral or Vacuum to implement and run your rules against the API specifications. Again, very popular stuff, and you might already be using them. And now, here's a big claim in this talk. I believe OpenAPI is mostly about JSON schema, and here is why. I'm loading one of the official OpenAPI specs published by Stripe, which you can all go and find on GitHub. And this is a big production-ready, battle-tested, professionally crafted OpenAPI spec, and it's huge. If you take a look at that, it's like 143,000 lines of YAML. If you actually start skimming through this massive YAML file, you will quickly start confirming that over 80% of its contents is just JSON schema. Like the reusable schema components or inline schemas in the OpenAPI, they are clearly dominating everything that's going on in this big file. And taking it one step further, I don't think this is unique to OpenAPI. There are many specifications like OpenAPI that build on top of JSON schema, like Async API, Ramo, or even W3C Web of Things. And the same principle applies, and I think all of these specifications are in a way thin wrappers around JSON schema. They are just repurposing JSON schema for a specific use case, like describing API. So yeah, it's a JSON schema all the way. So let's recap, and we try to build a logical argument together. So we know that a big part of API governance comes down to ensuring your API specifications are of high quality. Again, whatever you define as high quality based on what you want to govern. We also know that the most popular API specification by far is OpenAPI. And we have just seen that OpenAPI, just like any other similar specifications, is a thin wrapper around JSON schema. And that means that the big problem here, which I believe nobody's talking enough about, except Kim on his previous talk in the conference, is that at the end of the day, your API governance is as good as your JSON schemas. If your JSON schemas suck, your API specifications are badly defined or they are underdefined. And if your API specifications are not great, they won't pass the interface checks that your API governance program is about. And here is bad news. I think we suck at writing schemas. I work with JSON schema staff full time, and I've been lucky to collaborate with many organizations. And I think I see the same mistakes over and over again. First one is ignorance. I think a lot of people use JSON schema without even realizing it's called JSON schema. They just think it's just some funny OpenAPI syntax. And again, if they are they do not know how it's called, how are they going to even do proper Google searches, right? Then we have education. Most people never properly learn JSON schema. They get forever stuck with the very, very, very basics. And again, never progress beyond that. Another one is testing. I see that most people never test their schemas. They might write lots of schemas, like hundreds of them, that look okay, but they actually don't do what you expect. I think that's a major, major problem. And also, most people I work with, they write monolithic open APIs without sharing schemas with other open APIs at all. They will just copy paste stuff. And again, they end up hurting compliance, which is one of the key reasons that you want to do this. Anyway, my company's mission is actually to go and fix this. We want to create the best open source and enterprise tooling. And here's some free stuff that I think will already get you beyond to where you are today. So I maintain the site learnjsonschema.com. Again, mainly focused on actually teaching JSON schema. A lot of people use it already. I have a tool for working with JSON schema that you might enjoy a lot. And I'm also building an open source schema registry, which I think you might find it very, very interesting for implementing a registry within your organization. And a lot more that you can go check out. But yeah, anyway, thanks a lot. We don't have any space for questions, but do feel free to reach out to me, and I would love to talk to all of you guys. So yeah, bye-bye.